Everyone, well done for your work last week. Your drawings of fish were absolutely stunning. So you obviously followed that tutorial incredibly well, and I was really impressed with what you came up with. What I thought I'd do today is give you a little induction using this online photo editor to actually edit your photographs of your drawings. All you'll need to do is go to pixlr.com, just Google Pixlr. It should come up and it'll take you through to this page like so. What you then want to do is just go to Pixlr X. Pixlr X is a free online service and it's absolutely fantastic. It just works in a very similar way to Photoshop. Most of the tools are even titled the same. So it's brilliant, intuitive software, completely free to use, and you just use it online. The first thing you want to do is just go to Open Image. And then you just want to find your photograph on your computer of your fish. So I might take this one here that I've got saved. I think this was Amy's. And just click open and it comes into your screen. First thing I want to do with it is just adjust the tones and levels a little bit. What you will notice is trying to take a photograph of a drawing is really hard. It's really hard not to get extra shadows in like we have down the bottom left hand corner, or maybe other little details and things you don't want in it. It is quite a difficult task. I recommend doing it outside because you often get the least sort of directional light. Obviously you know that you get stronger shadows if you've got directional light, so ceiling lights inside can create strong shadows. So if you're not happy with your drawing, you might just try rephotographing it and sending it to your computer. So the first thing we're going to do is just do some adjustments of the levels. All of the tools you'll need to do this are just down on the left hand side, and the first one we're going to use is this adjust one here. If you hover your cursor over them, it does just give you the names of them. So we're going to go to adjust here. I'm just going to scroll down. Our image is pretty much black and white, so we don't really need to worry about black and white. But about colour, what you might do is turn the saturation down. It just means if you've got any leaks of colour like we have down the bottom left hand corner, we're just losing them. So I'm just going to put the saturation of the colours all the way down to make it black and white. Next, I'm just going to have a little play with the brightness, so it might just increase it slightly. Keep an eye on your drawing. It's very easy to lose all of the detail in your drawing by adding too much. So we've just got to do it where we keep the detail in our drawing, but try and adjust the things around the outside as best we can. Might just increase the exposure slightly, bring the contrast up ever so slightly. I might just increase the white. Again, I'm starting to lose details in the drawing, so I don't want to do that very much. With different drawings, it will be, you'll be able to do more than with others. So I think that's probably about as good as we're going to get it. And when you're happy with that, just click apply. The next thing you might have a quick look at doing is just doing it with a brush, so we can make sure we're not working over the top of this area, but we can just adjust some of these areas with a brush. So if you go down on the left hand side here, we've got this tool called the retouch button. So if you go on this and go over to the right hand tool here, dodge and burn, what I can do is make sure you've got lighten selected, and you'll see you've got a little paintbrush symbol here. So if I start scribbling, you might be able to see it's lightening underneath my paintbrush, like so. What I want to do is make it a bit bigger, and I want to have a nice soft brush. Can you see that it gives you a bit of an infographic here? If your softness is really up, it means you've just got a small area concentrated in the center and it fades out. If you put your softness all the way down, you get a really hard brush, so it's very clear where you've been. Okay, you might be able to see that on your screen there. So I'm just going to undo that by pressing Command Z. Equally, you can just go to the undo or redo buttons in the bottom if you're not happy with the change you made. So I want to have a nice soft brush. I'm going to make it quite large, but not so large that I'm going to be running over my fish. So maybe something, about that sort of size. And I'm just going to have a little scribble over the areas which I feel are a bit dark. Okay, and so lighten them up. Where it says range, that refers to what the tone is underneath that you're trying to lighten. So I'll just give you an example. This is probably a mid-tone here because it's grey, it's in the middle. you know, the black bits here, you know, you'd say they're a dark tone, and the white is obviously a light area. So if I'm trying to lighten a white area or a very light grey area, obviously using the kind of light tool is easiest. So I might just do something like that. Okay, go around my fish. So I'm really kind of cleaning up this bit of paper now, so it feels like it's floating in a nice clean background. Again, don't go too close to your fish because you will, you know, start affecting your sketch lines, which we don't want to do. And if it's got a little bit of shadow around it, well, I think that will look good. What you might find on your drawing is that actually you've photographed something, you've got a bit of an edge in there. You can of course crop things, so you've got the crop tool over here on the left hand side, you know, where you can drag things in. So I might decide I'm going to crop out the signature on the drawing. Terrible. Bring it in ever so slightly. You know, if your drawing's not in the centre of the page, you can help kind of make it a bit more central. I might just leave a little bit more white space underneath it, like so. When you're happy, just click apply, and it's cropped it for you as well. So if you've got any extra detail, you might do that. So I'm now really happy with this drawing of the fish. I think it looks fantastic. It's a lovely sketch to start with, and it's also, you know, in a nice white, clean environment. The next thing we're going to do is have a little look at painting on top, just to give it a little wash of colour. We don't want to add tons of colour. I'm not going to create a whole scene around it, but it might just add some little hints and washes of colour. To do that, we're going to go to our drawing tool over here, where we've got a paintbrush. Now, the first thing to think about when we're going to paint anything, if I just go straight in there and start painting on top of the fish, I've lost all of the wonderful detail that's underneath it. So what we don't want to do is paint on top of our fish, because what was the point in drawing in all the detail in the first place? So I'm just going to undo that. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a bit of paint, a bit like we would do if we're doing a watercolour, where you'd have your pencil lines underneath, and we've got nice thin paint which goes over the top, which means we can see our lines through it. So over on the right hand side here in your layers panel, if you just go to the plus symbol, and we're going to add a new layer. This is going to be like a tracing paper layer on top. So just select empty, and we can see we've got that layer there. So again, I might now choose, right, this fish, maybe I want him to be, let's try and make him feel a bit like a goldfish, I think. Okay, and I can start painting in there. Oh, that's a very goldfish. I might try and make him a little bit more orange, possibly. Let's bring that colour up there. Like a bit more red. Yeah, I think something like that should be quite good. Yeah, that's better. But can you see I'm still painting over the top of my fish? If we go over here to that layer, you see we've got the 3 dots. If you click on them, we've got the layer settings. You don't need to do anything else in here, but where it says blend mode, if you just scroll down one to multiply, what it does is it means that the paint comes through. So every time I paint, I get all my pencil lines through. What I find the easiest thing to do is if you're doing a fish all one colour, I might just increase the size of my brush. I'm going to fill in these bulky areas. Okay, try and do all of the bulky areas in one go. So, and then we'll go in with a smaller brush and get into some of the smaller areas. So I'll try not to spend too long doing this so you don't get too bored watching me. But I could spend quite a long time. And you can of course zoom in nice and close to try and get some nice colour going into your fish. Now, sometimes not doing it too neatly can be the best thing to do. If you ever think about someone like Quentin Blake, you might not know his work, but you'll probably be familiar with his illustrations in Roald Dahl sketches. When he paints and draws, you know, he's not being too particular about getting all of the paint within the lines. Just giving things a wash of colour, you know. Just giving this a little bit of grey and blue and leaving some areas white to give the impression this is a white lab coat, or this is a skin colour and this is a tone. Okay, so do think about that. in your painting. So you don't necessarily have to try and be too neat. I'm being really neat on this one. But sometimes actually just painting outside the lines can be really nice. So just going around it, something like so, especially when you've got a really precise drawing underneath. I might just now start being a little bit messier just to give it that sort of wash of colour. And again, if you then decide, oh actually, I don't like that, I wish I'd been a bit neater and I've made a mistake, you can of course go to your eraser tool, okay, and start rubbing around your edges. I often find it's quicker to paint things really neatly and then rub out your mistakes afterwards. So you can of course change all of those. So I'm not going to try and be too precise because you get really bored watching. But I think it is worth also maybe using a slightly harder brush than what I've used here, or to just paint over the lines and use a nice hard eraser just to clean them up a little bit. So I don't think that's too bad. I think it's quite a strong colour and I might want it a little bit more subtle. So if I want to just reduce the overall colour, I could go back to my layer options and just reduce the opacity slightly. So it's just giving it a little bit more of a subtle wash. Other things that you could do is using the kind of burn and dodge tool that we used previously. I might just go back to those, show them the kind of retouch area. And so I'm on lighten at the moment, and I might just try and just lighten up some little areas. Okay. Again, I could go to darken and might just try and make the size of my brush quite large. And so I might just darken up the belly of the fish, for example, these top bits here. So it just gives it a little sense of being slightly more three-dimensional. Undo that, I'm not terribly happy with it. Might just make that a bit smaller and just try and do the belly on its own. And go over the top of that. There, so just got a little bit of shading into it. So you might just think about doing something like that. Give it a nice little hint of colour and a little bit of shading. You can spend a bit longer going into these small little details, you know, maybe, you know, trying to add in a bit more tone and colour. So it's quite nice to give a bit of shading so it's not quite so monotone. When you're happy with your final drawing and you think, yeah, that looks absolutely brilliant, really chuffed with that, you can just go to save at the bottom. So if you just click save, it says quality, just bring that all the way up to 100%. Your file type wants to be a JPEG, and you can give it whatever name you want, coloured fish, Mr. Can, set your quality to high and just click download. Once you've done that, if you could then upload that file into the Teams, I would love to see what you've come up with. So I can now just close that. Well, wish you all the very best of luck with it, and I can't wait to see what you've come up with. Good luck, bye.